Good morning. Thank you for joining us. We're grateful for the land and for the life it provides for us here in Alberta. We are gathered in the territory of the signatories of Treaty 6, and I acknowledge the Métis people who share a deep connection to this land. I'm Kasawski, Alberta NDP Critic for Municipal Affairs, and I'm joined here by our Deputy Leader and House Leader, Christina Gray. Last week, the UCP attempted to minimize the blowback from one of their most authoritarian pieces of legislation to date, Bill 20. Danielle Smith's government introduced Bill 20, the Municipal Affairs Statutes Amendment Act, to give themselves sweeping powers to control everything. Some of the measures proposed in Bill 20 include the ability for the Premier to fire any councillor or mayor on her whim. It would give her and Cabinet the ability to overrule any bylaw put in place by municipal governments. It would introduce political parties in local elections in Edmonton and Calgary, something that over 70% of Albertans have said they do not want. And there's so much more in this bill. The bill has been described as an attack on local democracy, massive overreach, and a stripping away of Albertans' rights. These aren't my words either. They are the views of elected councillors, reeves and mayors from across the province who didn't mince words when they called out this government on this legislation all of last week. Here are just some of the things they said. The Minister and the Premier have said they will work with these municipalities on amendments to the bill, and those amendments would be coming this week. With over 300 municipalities in the province, the consultation period from this commitment made by the UCP to when the amendments are set to be proposed this week is a span of 1 weekend. 1 weekend is a pretty small window for time for credible and genuine consultation with Albertans. And I think Albertans deserve better before sweeping changes are made to our democracy. I'm now going to pass things over to Christina.
Thanks, Kyle. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that Albertans have seen through this attempt at damage control by Danielle Smith and the UCP. The Smith government introduced a bill that crosses the lines of overreach into municipal responsibilities and jurisdictions, but it also strips away Albertans' rights by negating other choices that Albertans make for their community when they vote in municipal elections. Now, Danielle Smith is attempting to control everything, everywhere, all at once, and she got caught. Now, because her government did not do their work in preparing this bill to be brought to the legislature, Smith and her government are trying to make it someone else's problem. This very narrow window of time, 1 weekend in which the UCP are asking municipal leaders to help amend Bill 20, puts undue pressure on other elected officials in the province. Councillors, mayors, school board trustees, Métis settlements and irrigation districts, they all have their own work that they're busy handling in their communities. So the UCP have created this crisis, and now all of these hardworking elected officials are trying to help solve this problem created by the UCP. 1 weekend is simply not enough time to get this right. Bill 20 was too problematic to begin with, and amendments to this bill will still keep overarching power behind the closed doors of Smith's cabinet meetings. That is not democratic. and it is unbecoming for the Premier and ministers elected to represent all Albertans. Premier Smith needs to completely scrap Bill 20, as Kyle and I said last week. They need to go back to the drawing board because this is rushed, and a phony attempt at a consultation process over a weekend simply does not cut it. Frankly, we only have 4 weeks left in this session. That is not enough time for busy municipal councillors to be engaged. Bill 20 needs to be sent to the shredder. Thank you, and we are very happy to take any questions.
Thank you. We'll start with questions in the room if there are any. No, and for everyone who's on Zoom, it's a raise hand function, and for those on the phone, it's the *9 to get into the question queue. One question and a follow-up, please. We do have a question from Janet French. Please state your name and outlet and who you'd like to direct your question to.
Hi there, Janet French from CBC. I don't think I'm fussed about whether it's Christina or Kyle answering, but I guess, are there any amendments large enough to this bill that would have you perceive it as more palatable than it currently is?
Well, Janet, why not both? I will start. As far as amendments are concerned, I am very excited because the Opposition Caucus is going to introduce an amendment to send this bill to a committee where we can actually hold the government accountable to genuinely consulting with municipalities through the legislative process. A second amendment we are bringing forward is that the bill not be read at this time, and instead in 3 or 6 months down the road, giving municipal councillors and all elected officials who are impacted by Bill 20 time to review, to consult, and for the government to genuinely consult and provide some amendments that might walk back some of the most authoritarian pieces in this legislation. Because through Bill 20, we see Danielle Smith trying to control everything, everywhere, all at once, as she does in Bill 18, as she's done with other policies decisions she's made this past session. Bill 20 is absolutely too far, and as we saw in the video, we've seen elected officials throughout Alberta speaking out against it. Just to briefly address amendments, I'll see if Kyle has anything to add.
And Jen, just to repeat, you're wondering if there's any amendments the government could bring in that would be worth keeping the bill?
Correct.
Yeah. You know, this bill is really coming from a place of authoritarianism, and we're seeing that the government is trying to control everything. And really, the amendment that send us back to the shredder, that would be the amendment that would be something we'd approve.
Was there a follow-up question? If not, I'll do a second pass for questions in the room, and seeing no more questions online, that will be the end of our,
Actually, quick.
oh, we do have a question in the room.
You know,
Sorry, could we get you on the mic?
for a party that decries the freedoms and the freedoms and freedoms, and they're doing these things that are, you said, very out of, that kind of undermine that. I mean, if at the end of the day, if somebody's not happy with their councillor or mayor or whatever, you have a cycle. So to interject into this, how disturbing or troublesome is this in the grand scheme of things? I mean, should people be concerned about seeing this and seeing these actions? Because it's really kind of technically undermining democracy.
Yeah, and you saw some of the comments from the municipal leaders and the RMA. This is an affront to our democracy. This is going to undermine the ability of Albertans to hold municipal councillors and reeves accountable for the decisions at a local level, and it's going to centralize all the power into cabinet and premier, and it's going to create an authoritarian system here in Alberta.
And I will just say, yes, Albertans should and are concerned about Bill 20. At the same time, Bill 18, which interferes again in both municipalities, but also post-secondaries, where freedom of expression and academic freedom are so important. The pattern we are seeing is Danielle Smith wanting to control everything, everywhere, all at once, massively overreaching in ways that hurt our democratic system. And voices have been raised to decry this quite loudly, both political science experts, people in the post-secondary, obviously our municipal elected officials and others. The government needs to back down, send bills, 20, even 18 back to the shredder and restart, because this is incredibly concerning. National organizations have been decrying Bill 20. This is a problem.
Did you have a follow-up?
Nope, I think that should do it.
And I believe Janet might have another question online.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sure can.
Oh, okay, sorry, there was an issue with the mute notification on this platform. No, I just had a follow-up about what your plans are in terms of trying to delay or thwart the progress of this bill. Like, are we looking at potential filibuster scenario as it moves through the House? And what are your, show me your cards, what are your tactics?
So first of all, last week and this week, Kyle and I and the entire official opposition caucus are asking for the government to withdraw Bill 20. It needs to be scrapped, and they do not need to listen to our voices. Rather, the elected officials across Alberta, the major associations that represent these officials, they are all calling for this bill to be stopped, for more time, more consultation to take place. We only have 4 weeks left before the scheduled end of session. That is not adequate time to consult on something that changes our democracy so fundamentally as Bill 20 does. So scrapping the bill is absolutely first choice, something the government has the power to do. In our power, if they choose not to do that, you will see us introducing amendments at second reading that will send this bill to committee or will delay the reading of the bill by 3 to 6 months to give stakeholders more time to genuinely be consulted. The idea of sending this bill to committee where we can have publicly open consultations on the clauses of the bill and some real actual debate on this bill would be a positive step forward if the government is not willing to simply shred it. So you'll certainly see those pieces. I hope that the government will listen to the many, many voices that have been raised across this past week.
Okay, seeing no further questions, that will be the end of today's press conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.